colonization and racism in the mid-1900s, and the portrayal of Pacific Islanders in films created a stereotyped and inaccurate image of Pacific Islanders and their culture. The negative stereotyping of their culture left an imprint on American beliefs about Pacific Islanders that would remain with them well into the future. However, recent efforts within the film industry and by Pacific Islanders have challenged both the misrepresented cultures and the stereotypes of being a Pacific Islander. These efforts are leading the way in changing the unrealistic perceptions people hold. The film South Pacific portrays fictitious Pacific Islands during the 1950s. Instead of being inhabited by Pacific Islanders, the film portrays the islands primarily as military installations with a small and otherwise unimportant indigenous population. The natives never display character and are used as a backdrop to the surrounding, mostly white cast. The lack of actual Pacific Island people presented in the film created a false image of Pacific Islander culture. The character Bloody Mary, for example, was played by an African American who was born in New Jersey rather than a Pacific Islander. Bloody Mary is portrayed as simple and unattractive. She speaks broken English and is viewed as pretty and selfish. Bloody Mary is one of the few supposed Pacific Islanders portrayed with any character, rather than being a background piece. However, most of her defining characteristics are stereotyped and unrealistic.
Hey, Lieutenant. You sexy man.
Thanks. You're looking pretty, fit yourself.
Sexy.
In the movie, the Drums of the Island scene portrays the Hawaiian people as carefree and relaxed. The natives are shown engaging in cultural festivities, and the use of the cultural festivities just for background is insulting to the culture of the Pacific Islanders. While the film takes place in Hawaii, the song, Drums of the Island, is actually translated from a native Fiji song, again misrepresenting the culture of the people. The use of Elvis Presley as the centerpiece of this scene also reinforces the background role of the native people. Hawaii in the 1900s was used by American businesses to farm sugar and fruits using cheap labor from indigenous populations and immigrants from Asia. While Blue Hawaii involves a fruit company, most of the story revolves around tourists and tourism, further pushing the idea that the Pacific Islands are tourist destinations for Americans. While the increased amount of tourism can be seen as increased economic opportunity for the native population, it also destroyed landscapes, pigeonholed natives into certain job prospects, and eroded the culture of the island.
Lilo and Stitch. Lilo and Stitch was a fairly progressive movie of the time, following a native Hawaiian girl as she deals with the death of her mother and father, meanwhile trying to keep hold of the value of ohana. While ohana does mean family that are blood related in Hawaiian culture, it can further extend to close friends, such as Stitch, and how they helped each other in times of need. The reason why Lilo and Stitch was such a progressive movie during the time was due to the care of the animators of studying Hawaiian culture to be culturally appropriate. And it was one of the first movies to represent Polynesian culture appropriately.
Moana demonstrates Disney's efforts to showcase Pacific Islander cultures to the public and their endeavors to preserve the culture by working with Pacific Island historians and casting Pacific Islanders as the main cast. Moana is depicted as a leader throughout the film, defying the traditions laid out by her tribe, and relies on her abilities rather than others. She becomes a representation for Polynesian women as an independent woman that perseveres through obstacles.
This is not who you are. You know who you are.
Dwayne Johnson is a Pacific Islander actor that is well known in many different films he has acted in. One of his most different roles is in Tooth Fairy, where he is a hockey player that ends up becoming the Tooth Fairy. This is a different role for most Pacific Islander actors, as they aren't well represented in hockey, and is also given another role as a Tooth Fairy, which can be interpreted as a feminine role, but Dwayne Johnson is able to portray the role in a non-feminine way.
Jason Momoa is a Hawaiian American actor, notable as Aquaman in Justice League. Jason Momoa is one of the first Polynesian to play as a superhero that represents Polynesian culture. For example, in the movie, most of Aquaman's tattoos were based off of Polynesian tattoos. Most notably, the tattoo on his left arm is a real tattoo of his family crest that represents a shark and his guardian spirit. Not only does he represent his cultural heritage, he also becomes an icon for many of the Polynesian and Pacific Islander youth. Dave Bautista is a Filipino-American actor who has played the role of Drax the Destroyer in Marvel Comic Universe films. His role as Drax is a different role for most Pacific Islander actors, as he plays a significant companion to the protagonist in Guardians of the Galaxy, and as well as the Avenger films. He represents how Pacific Islanders do not only have to play the role as extras, but also important roles in films. As the movie industry increasingly becomes more diverse, many actors are stepping up and challenging stereotypes to create a more open and diverse Hollywood, not only for Pacific Islanders and Asian Americans, but also other minority groups.
Ancestors, hear my prayer.